Creepers left to rise, buzz like crazy. Everybody's trying to stimulate it. Spiders in the mirror and feel this can't be right. Back to the scene of a Friday night, to a blessed collision still frozen tight. Spill drinkers, Cupid and the sound of her first chime. And why did you argue? We're dreaming of those eyes, the best part of my life. And when we make love, babe, don't make a sound, the clock won't turn around. Ooh, you turn around 2,000 little fires, and ooh, your circle is spreading. Slowing things down when I wanted to race, catching up again when you try to chase. Feels like we're playing space. You always find a way to make up, right? Even when we're such a fly, even when tensions run high, you gotta soften up your sleeves, girl. You're never enough, babe. Dreaming of those eyes, best part of my life.
Hello my friends, hello, how are you? We're sitting in the spot where I just finished filming a video. It's Monday morning. We're gonna do a weekly vlog. I am ready to go to the gym. Obviously I got a high ponytail. I always do that, or braids when I go to the gym. It's early in the morning. My son is home from school. It's teacher work day. He's gonna have some buddies over a little bit later. I have a ton of work to do. And I just thought, you know, I really just kind of wanted to do a weekly vlog. I don't really consider myself much of a lifestyle vlogger because I don't really do much other than work and read. But I do miss just talking to you guys on a daily, more like informal type of vibe. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about the reading plans for this week, because this is a reading vlog. This isn't just like a weekly vlog. So I opened up a poll to my patrons yesterday. I think it was yesterday, where I was asking them to vote on some books. I have one tier that I don't vlog every week, but when I do vlog every week, I'm gonna have a poll up so that you can vote on the books that I'm gonna read. So this week I just put some books in there that were interesting to me, and I thought, here we go, we're gonna do this. So the two books that won is Painted Scars by outage. So this is a really short mafia romance. I've only read one book by this author. I actually read the second book. This is book one. So I don't really know what this is about. We're going to go in blind, already just knowing that I like this author's writing style, I like her storytelling, and kind of prepared for whatever type of mafia romance, dark-ish, light romance this may be, right? So I'm excited to start with that because I think it's a fast, short read that I can get through pretty quickly. And then the other book that won is one that is on my TBR that I really, really want to read, and it is Worth Any Price by Lisa Kleypas. So I will put a picture in. I do have a paperback of this. I have the new edition, and I also have my old one, and I can't find. I think it's in this little book cart right there, which you can't see. But I need to go through all of my books and just organize them, but that is a project not for today. Not for today. So those right now, as of right now, sometimes my mood changes, like, because I feel like I'm so freshly out of a reading slump that honestly, even though I had my patrons vote for these, if I am not feeling either of these, I'm going to DNF and pick something else. But that is the plan. From this moment forward, we're going to do Painted Scars first by outage, and then we're going to do Worth Any Price by Lisa Kleypas. And I'm honestly excited for both of those, so I don't see how my mood would be like, no, I don't want to read those. But again, you never know. because moods are weird, and if I have learned anything from this round of a reading slump, it's that you just cannot predict what your brain is going to feel like reading, because I don't know. The book I feel like that finally pulled me out of a reading slump is actually a Zoe Draven book. So I actually may be tempted to read more of hers. I feel like maybe if I feel a reading slump coming on, I'll go back to one of hers. But anyway, that's the plans. Thank you for joining me for this reading vlog, and I will see you in a bit once I have something to say about these books, because I haven't started either one of them. I just barely finished Wildside by Elsie Silver, like, early this morning. I adored it. I thought it was perfect. It's honestly my new favorite Elsie Silver. I just loved it. It's definitely my new favorite Elsie Silver. I loved it. I thought it was perfect, and I have no complaints about that. I thought it was amazing. So yeah, it's tough to follow a book like that where you just absolutely pretty much loved everything about it, but we're gonna try. We're gonna do our best. So, all right, my friends, I'll see you soon when I have more to say. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to my channel. Well, guess what? Today is Wednesday, so I actually did not vlog at all yesterday, so you just get, it's probably not gonna, honestly, I'm probably not going to be able to vlog Friday much either, because I have my shop update that day for my Tumble Creatures shop, and then I also am having somebody come to look at our roof, because we think we need to have some repair done, so my husband is going to be home that day, and I just anticipate not a lot of vlogging. It's either going to be loud, noisy, husband is home, something like that. So let's talk about the book that I just finished. So I know so far this vlog has been pretty short. My son will be home shortly, and then he and I are going to go to the gym. So I didn't go to the gym earlier today like I usually do, and I was kind of regretting that, because I was sitting here, I didn't go earlier because I knew he wanted to try out this new gym that I'm going to, and the only way he can do it obviously is after school, but I usually go during the day, and today I was like, well, I'm just gonna go with him, so I'm not even gonna go today, and I'm sitting here working this morning, and my power goes out, and I don't have, like, my garage door will only, like, I guess you can manually open it, but I don't know how to do it, and it's a super heavy door, and I'm home alone, and my truck was in the garage, and so I was like, okay, so now I'm gonna be stuck here all day. I wish I had gone to the gym, but it's just funny how something like that, like, when I felt trapped, I immediately, like, panicked, and it reminds me of, I hate being in elevators. I hate the feeling of being, like, trapped and confined. So even though I have a front door, I can walk out, the idea of just being stuck at home without a car and literally not being able to leave was awful. And that was also compounded by the fact my husband asked me to come have lunch with him and my other son. And so I did, but luckily my power got turned on like an hour after it had gone off, so it wasn't out for very long. Anyway, such a very privileged thing to even feel, right? But I felt very helpless. I felt very helpless, and I was surprised at how much that made me feel panicky, you know? So, let's talk about the book. So I did just barely finish Painted Scars by Neva Altai. That's how they pronounce her name in this audiobook, so I'm gonna do that going forward and hope that that is correct, because I've been pronouncing it Outage, which I don't. If they said her name in a different way in the audiobook, I should probably say it that way. So this is, I have read the second book in this series, so now I've read 2 books by this author. So I've read 2 books by this author. I read the second book first last year, and I really, really liked it. I thought it was very sweet. I thought the romance was great. That one I think is with the ballerina. So this one we have a very small heroine, like it's mentioned several times. It's a little bit of a plot point about how tiny she is, like she's barely 5 feet tall. He's a big, huge Russian mafia boss. The first opening scene is him like waking up in the hospital, hearing about some plots to kill him, but he doesn't remember who it was, and he's left with a lot of damage to himself, so he is in a wheelchair for part of the book, and then he ends up like using, I can't remember if it's a cane or crutches, but he's very, you know, he's very used to being powerful and capable and the very masculine type of man, and so suddenly he finds himself with this injury and disability, and he feels greatly, like, diminished, and that is also another, like, big plot point in this book. And I did think that that was a pretty interesting thing to give a Russian mafia boss hero, to make him feel a little bit less I mean, a little bit less. I think it makes for a more interesting hero, right? If he's just all-powerful, big, huge, strong, muscular guy, like, he needs to have some type of weakness about him, and I thought this was an interesting thing to add. Our heroine is an artist, she's a painter, and she kind of, it's said in the beginning that she sells her paintings for like 6 figures, so she is a bit of an anomaly in that way. But the whole thing comes to an arranged marriage situation because our hero finds his position in the mafia to be jeopardized by his injury and disability, and so he needs to take on a wife, and they believe that she will be perfect for him, and also her dad owes them like $3 million. So they say, hey, it's going to be cleared up if she just marries him. Now the hero says that the marriage is going to be temporary. He does not want to keep her forever. He just needs to use that politically to get through this trying time in his mafia. So once the couple actually meets, there is a good amount of chemistry between the two of them. There is obviously a physical attraction that they feel like right off the bat, which is very present, and really that physical attraction, I feel like, is the guiding force in their relationship 100%. That's the thing that keeps them wanting to be together. That's the thing that propels them towards each other. That's the thing that eventually leads to them having intimacy for the first time. And I liked that. Like, I felt like the physical chemistry was good. I also liked that even though it kind of led with that, we did quickly go into, you know, him appreciating like her wit and her cleverness and, you know, her softness too. And she also appreciates things about him, like how smart and clever and powerful he is. So there's a lot about these two that from the beginning of when they're thrown into this relationship, you can see that they are not mad about it at all. Like, they see that this is a good match, this is a potential good match, and I'm interested to see at least how this goes for now. And I will say that for the first half of the book, and now this is a very short book, the audiobook was like 6 hours, and it still took me 3 days to read. The first half of the book went by really fast for me. I was like into it, I was loving it, I was happy. I felt like there was enough intrigue with their personalities not fully meshing up and their life goals not fully meshing up that kept it interesting. There is a point where he kind of convinces her to play dumb, essentially, and to be kind of a ditz and just like a dummy bimbo wife type of thing. And she makes this whole character about that person and she starts acting it, and he actually admires that even more about her, and I thought that was fun. I liked that we got to see her using that part of her personality. Like, I thought it was clever. I liked that. I thought it was fun. Honestly, I was feeling like pretty good about this. I was liking it a lot, and I do still like this book. I'm gonna give it 4 stars. But then at a certain point, it seemed like, especially in the last half of this book, it felt like things were just happening one after the other, and there was no real room to sort of sit and feel things. It was just things were happening like back to back. Like, they had their first intimacy scene, and then they're kind of declaring love for each other, and then it leads them into this dangerous situation, and then, you know, the third act breakup happens, and then they get resolved, and it just felt like boom, 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 boom. Well, all the while we're dealing with some very like heavy and potentially sensitive subject matter, you know, and that is actually, I just critiqued a book for this not too long ago that I feel like can happen in a book that is this short that doesn't simplify it, right? Because we're adding so many of these different elements to add, you know, to potentially add higher stakes or a higher, faster pace, or just something to keep you really engaged and to give you that dark romance type of vibe. I know that's what the author is attempting to do here, and I think overall it's fun, and the effect is fun, but it did kind of, the reason I gave this 4 stars instead of 5 is because after a while the effect of that just felt very formulaic, it felt very tropey, it felt very like throwing all these elements in here to give readers what they want, but nothing was developed beyond just the bare minimum level, you know? So I do think that this had a really beautiful romance. I just sort of feel like it was a lot of lead up to them wanting to be together and to start to feel feelings for one another, and then they had their first intimacy scene for the first time, and then it was just sort of like, boom, sold, we're together forever, this is everything, and then the third act happens. And so that also kind of left me a little bit dissatisfied because I don't feel like we got that full falling into love feeling. It just sort of was like hints of that they were kind of circling each other, things were happening, you know, like he's a very protective and very possessive hero. Like I don't think I've read a possessive hero of this magnitude in a while, and that's a fun thing. Like I do like a possessive hero who's like, no, you're not wearing that around anybody but me. No, you're not gonna go anywhere without me. Like, it's not healthy, right? But it's fun to read, especially to read like a mafia boss who just goes full on into possessive, this is my woman, and even more, especially when that happens before he's even actually declared love for her, right? Because then it leaves the heroine thinking, why is he so upset if I post a selfie in my gym outfit? Why would he be so upset about that? You know, like I do like that. I like that he was a really protective hero. And I mean, when I look at this book overall, I think it's really fun. I think and again, the reason that I feel like this took me 3 days, is largely just because it felt, once we got to that point where they were physically together, then any type of tension or anything that was really compelling me to keep reading for me personally kind of just dove off a cliff, right? Because at that point they're together, they're feeling things, and then we had mafia plot things happening, and I just didn't feel like that was strong enough to replace the great tension that was building, you know? And so again, that was another thing that kind of weakened this for me overall. But still, overall, 4 stars, solid fun read. I really do like this author. I think she nails a sweet mafia hero so well, and it was really pretty fun. So I liked it a lot. So 4 stars for that one. And I would definitely recommend it. I would definitely recommend the series because, like I said, like I think it is a lot of fun. I do like it a lot. So now it is time to pick a different book. And so, oh, let me see. I need to try and find my original cover because I know I have one, and like I said, I'm pretty sure it's down in that book cart. But I'm gonna grab the new copy of this that I grabbed at Barnes & Noble. Sorry, I forgot I wasn't speaking towards the mic. I grabbed this at Barnes & Noble a few months ago, maybe a month ago. So this is the newly published, I actually don't know when this is, but newly recovered. Oh, so this came out. Actually, when was this one republished? I don't see. 2021? That seems like it's a long time ago. 2021. Worth Any Price by Lisa Kleypas. I'm assuming that must be when this edition was republished, recovered, remarketed. I had to grab it. I had to grab it because you know how I feel about historical romances and the kind of break publishing is taking from them, and I also have heard a lot of things about how mass markets are going to be a thing of the past, which makes me so freaking sad. So I grabbed this. This is one of those Lisa Kleypas books that I haven't read, and I just sort of thought if I have this physical copy, maybe I will be more inclined to read it. So this is Worth Any Price. This is book 3 in the Bow Street Runner series. I believe this is the final one. I think it's a trilogy. So I am excited about this. All I really know about this is that he is a Bow Street Runner and he is after a runaway bride. So I'm excited about that. So I think that could set up for some really fun things. And honestly, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be going into a Lisa Kleypas book. Like, it makes me very happy. So yeah, I'm going to start this one and I will come back. Hopefully I will come back when I have maybe first impressions, anything at all useful to say about this. I had planned to come back for Painted Scars and that just didn't end up happening, but I'll come back and talk to y'all about Worth Any Price as soon as I have something in my brain to say about it. Hello, my friends. Hello. Okay, so I'm just gonna put a bookmark in this. I am reading Worth Any Price. I am reading the audio book. And I am about halfway through chapter 5 on the audio. So about right there, it says that I am 25% of the way through. So this isn't necessarily a long audiobook, but you guys, I'm having a hard time with this one. I really am. Okay, this is kind of a tricky thing to like talk about because I feel like so many people, the few times that I have engaged in this on any type of a platform other than my own personal YouTube videos where you guys have never once come for me about this, it feels like the ability to like not consider the nuance and go straight to attacking is overly prevalent. So this whole series for me, in my memory, I recall this series being very much steam driven. Like the physical connection is what's driving the relationship in all three of these books. And I read Lady Sophia's Lover first. I thought it was okay. I didn't really like it. So this, if I didn't mention it, this is the Bow Street Runners series. So Lady Sophia's Lover, I'll put a picture in there, but I'm going to hold this for emotional support. Lady Sophia's Lover was okay, but I remember feeling as I read that, like, they just get straight to having a physical relationship and then that's all that they do. And I want to be clear that I am not saying that that is bad. I am not saying that that is wrong. I am not saying that that is anything other than that is not my preference. And when I read books like that, especially from an author that I love, that I know writes romance, not just the steam, and I know that can be part of it, right? Like, I feel like I have to make all of these qualifiers when I comment about this because, I mean, if you watched my last wrap up and vlog, you will know, like, I read The Moon and His Tides, which is an erotic romance, and there was a lot of steam in there. I just am not liking how it's driving the whole story in here. So I'm 25% of the way through. Honestly, when I read the prologue, I was thinking, I should DNF this. I don't know if this book is going to be for me, because the prologue is about Nick Gentry showing up. He's a virgin. He shows up to a brothel. He is ready. He is needing to have his physical needs met, and he ends up meeting the madam, and they have an experience together, and she, first of all, tells him, like, I want to train you because I think that you will be excellent at pleasuring women, right? So initially when I read that, I was like, I don't want to read this. Like, I struggle with that, right? And you all know that if you've been here for a while, and if you haven't, then hello, hi, how are you? But I will say, like, the reason that it's bothering me so much in here is because it is leading and guiding all of their interactions, every single one of them. Every single time the hero interacts with the heroine, it is driven by his desire to have her, to master her physically. And we do get, like, obviously the prologue sets up the story for what this is going to be, but by the time I got to the end of the prologue, I felt like she was doing something really interesting with this hero, because he obviously has some trauma that we haven't figured out what that is yet. We don't know really what's going on with him. I've got, like, a loopy in my braids, and I freaking hate that. So I was curious to see what was going to happen, because I know there are authors that I read and love who handle that really well, but I'm just finding this to just be so weak in storytelling, weak in romance, and I just don't care about these characters. I don't care about the story. I do believe that she will get me to feel at least some amount of romance between them, but at this point I just am sort of like, I am bored. I am bored because the only thing that is happening between the two of them is he's trying to convince her to marry him because, you know, he wants to master her physically. And again, I've read books that handle that exact same subject before, and they do work for me, so I feel like it's a very delicate balance of having a lot of nuance, and I hate to say it, I don't feel like this has that, you know? And when I looked this up on Goodreads, I hadn't looked it up before I started it because I just didn't. I was really curious to see what the majority of people were thinking, and I feel like this is overwhelmingly positively received. Like, a ton of 5 stars from a lot of my mutuals and friends. And I just am feeling, honestly, like, so completely underwhelmed. Like, so underwhelmed. And that's one reason why I have been hesitating to pick up another Lisa Kleypas, because I know she will have some duds in her backlist. Like, I know she will, for me. So I am pretty disappointed with this book so far. I am finding it so difficult to listen to. Like, I just don't want to listen to it. I just don't care. So I guess... And I know, like, a lot of you are probably thinking, so why don't you just DNF it? So here's a fun fact. This year I took the advice to DNF books sooner to heart. And I can't even tell you the amount of books that I have DNF'd this year where I was just not interested. I did not care. I stopped reading them. And I feel like because that happened to me so often, I sort of got to this point where I was like, I just need to finish a book. I need to finish it no matter what. So I'm feeling really torn about this one because I've been reading so many great books this month specifically, and this one is not a great book for me. Even if I finish this is going to be at most a 3-star read. And I'm just sad and disappointed about that, you know? So, I don't know, guys. I think I am... I think as I've talked to you, there are pros and cons to DNFing this right now. If I DNF this, I'm probably never going to get back to it. I just probably won't. And that is okay or isn't okay. But there is a part of me that wants to have completed Lisa Kleypas' backlist entirely. There is a part of me that feels like this could still work for me. You know, like it really could. But when I think about how this book is constructed and what the baseline story of this is, which is a very steamy, almost an erotic quality to this romance, I just don't feel like it's for me right now. Maybe it's not for me forever. So I think I am gonna DNF it, you guys, because I'm working today. I took a lunch break. I mean, I'm working every day. I took a lunch break to come and talk to you, and I was not sure if I was going to DNF it or not. And I mean, even just flipping through the paperback, I do feel like almost every single page that I open to is a steamy scene. And you know, I know that really works for a lot of people, but I think it's not working for me. I don't particularly like the way Lisa Kleypas writes that, because this feels exactly like how she writes her other books in the series that are very like steam driven. And I don't like that. I'm just not interested. I need there to be a story outside of that. I need there to be romance outside of that from this author, and man, I'm so disappointed about this. So, yeah. I think I'm going to DNF it, and I'm not even going to tell you what I'm going to pick up next because I'm not sure, and I want to give myself an opportunity to pick something that is going to 100% work for me, you know? So I'm sorry if I don't know that I need to apologize, but I always feel a little disappointed, especially because I haven't read any historicals this month, and this is from an author I love, and I'm just disappointed that I don't love it. And now I sort of feel like, do I even want to read another historical? Anyway, that's all for this update. I'm going to try and find a different book and read it and come back and talk to you about it at some point, hopefully. So much for a weekly vlog, because it's just, I shouldn't have even tried to do a weekly vlog on a week where I know I have a shop update for my business, because it's just impossible to manage the two of them. So anyway, yeah, disappointed about that. I just wish that, I don't know, like, I've been trying to pinpoint what it is that she's doing that makes me almost, like, recoil with how she is driving this with the steam. And I think it has a lot to do with what the hero is noticing about the heroine and what he's thinking about the heroine, which is all very much like objectivity, like she's an object to him. She is something to conquer. There's nothing about her that is special in any way other than that. And I think that, especially because, you know, even the mafia romance that I just read, Painted Scars, that's the title, right? I can't remember. Whoa, light balance was a little off. That one, like, obviously they were very attracted to each other, but he was so drawn to her, he was so intrigued with her, and I need that in a romance. Like, I really do. I really need there to be, and that's something that I said in my page. I did a vlog on Patreon when I started reading The Moon and His Tides, and I was trying to differentiate that there was some phrasing that Gianna Darling used in that book about the hero noticing the heroine and, you know, having a physical reaction to that, that really, really made me feel like he was interested in her, not just in a body and she happens to be female or she's somebody that he wants to conquer. And that's what I'm feeling with Worth Any Price. And again, I'm sure that this will change. I'm still quite early on, but I'm just so disappointed. I'm so disappointed. And I don't know. I find it to be so off-putting. I find it to be so off-putting when the hero reduces the heroine to what she can do to satisfy his desires. Like, that's the thing where I'm just sort of like, I'm over this. So yeah, I am gonna DNF this because man, I started this last night. I've been trying to be productive and I keep finding myself stopping my audiobook, trying to find a YouTube video, trying to find something else to listen to while I'm working, and then I'm like, oh, I should go try my audiobook again, and I just need to be done with it. So man, I am disappointed because I love Lisa Kleypas and I want to read a historical romance, but I have been having so many duds historical romance wise lately. Like this whole year, I don't think I've had a historical romance that I've loved. And that's disappointing. So anyway, I'm gonna have some lunch, but I just thought I would update you. I will come back with another book review. We'll see how much vlogging I get done because it's Thursday, shop update tomorrow, and then the weekend. But yeah, I'll be back at some point.
It is time, it's the perfect summer night. Those three words are spelled out in your eyes. But before I go on, say something wrong. I just hope and bite my tongue. 'Cause you've been told too many times before. Yeah, you've been told so many times before. So
Hello, my friends. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Should we finish this vlog? Shall we finish this vlog? Alright, so I know in my last clip I said that I think I'm going to DNF Worth Any Price, and I really was. Honestly, I was. I actually, after I filmed that clip, I kind of took a break from audiobooks in general and started listening to like art business podcasts and art YouTube videos about like small businesses because I just felt like frustrated with my audiobook, and so I thought this is something I do sometimes. Instead of just giving myself a break from audiobooks, I try to find the next one, because I'm like, I have to be reading all the time. And so something I'm trying out now is just to definitely not be doing that, is to just be taking a little bit of a break from an audiobook. And because I work from home in silence all alone, I just feel like I have to have something keeping my brain occupied to keep me focused and functional, you know? So yeah, I took a little break, and then I kind of thought, I just kept feeling like I pulled out my little TBR picture thing for Instagram where I put all the books pictures and I could cross them off every month that I had for my TBR, and I was just like, I really don't want to write DNF on this Lisa Kleypas. I just didn't want to do it. Because I knew if I DNF'd it, I was never going to get back to it. So I decided to just power through it. And I did power through it. And part of me was just really curious to see what she was going to do with this story. Like, how was she going to get me on board with this hero? How was she going to have his character grow and change? And I feel like in a lot of Lisa Kleypas books, she kind of can get a lot of heat for the way that she writes her heroes in some of them, because they are kind of a-hole heroes, you know? Very similar to how I think Joanna Shupe can do a hero like that too. But there usually is, despite the fact that he is controlling and selfish and, you know, alpha hole type of things, there is usually a moment in there that he is in Lisa Kleypas books where he is completely brought to his knees for her, where he just completely changes his whole outlook on her, having her in his life, how he feels about her, and all this other stuff. And so I was really, really curious to see what's she gonna do with his character arc, you know? And eventually we do find out the secret that he's keeping and a little bit of the trauma, and we find out the trauma that he's been through, which kind of led him to who he is today. And I found that to be interesting, but I didn't feel like it was quite enough to make up for the huge a-hole that he was the entire book. Because, I mean, this is a hero that, for me specifically, is very hard to get on board with, right? There were multiple times in here where he reduces her simply to an object to be used for his pleasure, like over and over and over again. And I've talked about this at length in the previous clip where I just get so tired of that. I have very little tolerance for that. I just cannot even handle a hero like that because it just sort of feels so... It just feels so opposite of what I want a man to feel like. Like, and especially comparing this even to the Neva Altai book, where, you know, he wants her physically, he wants her for his own purposes that are selfish, but there is a part of him that remains, like, honorable in how he treats her, and he doesn't just see her as the object to fulfill his sexual desires. Like, that's the thing right there that bothers me, and that's one reason why certain dark romance heroes are so difficult for me to get on board with initially, because I just find that to be just the thing that repels me and disgusts me the most, right? I'm thinking specifically of Carter Mahoney in Untouchable by Sam Mariano, which that first opening scene, obviously it's about power and it's about control, but it's also about using her as an object to satisfy his sexual desires. And that's just something that anytime that shows up in a book, the author has to work incredibly hard and do a lot of incredible things with his character growth specifically that leads me to believe that that is not his only desire for her. That is not the only reason that he wants her. And I do think that in the instance of Carter Mahoney, that's a really fantastic character study of him and her. I think it's really interesting, but it still remains a hero that I will never fully be on board with and that I have a hard time seeing as a great romantic lead. Because to me, one of the things that makes a really great romance is an element of selflessness on both parties where, and that doesn't always have to occur right in the beginning, right? But there has to be some element there of, I want you to be happy. I want to fulfill your needs because they are your needs, not because I'm going to get a benefit out of it, right? And I think that sometimes newer romance authors don't hit that mark right, you know? And I think that that is something that takes a lot of skill to show us, especially when you consider that they need to have character arcs and growth of their own, right? So yeah, I was really curious to see how she was going to get me on board with him because this book is so well loved. And I know I talked a lot about the steam and how I just was bored, and I was bored with that. And the fact that it was just continuously propelling their relationship forward, I just continued to remain, like, skipping pages, kind of bored, you know? So, eventually, we do get to a point where we see he starts to change his feelings for her. He starts to change his point of view with her. He starts to change how he sees her. But it takes a while for him to get there. Like, it really takes a while. And I will say that for me, it wasn't enough. It wasn't satisfying enough. I needed there to be more. I needed him to be shook more. I mean, there are scenes in the end where he's very protective of her, but again, he's protective of her because he views her as property, right? And I get the implications there. Like, I'm not stupid. It's difficult to convey the nuance of how this bothers me, especially when you consider the historical setting, and he probably did consider her to be his property in some ways. And I think in a lot of times, anytime we have a very protective hero, like I was just talking about the Neva Altai book, anytime we have a very protective, possessive hero, part of that drive to protect and possess is that he does consider her to be his property. But there's a difference there when it's his property that he tenderly loves and cares for and wants to cherish, and when he is just seeing that as some man coming in, trying to stake a claim, and it's his pride that's threatened, you know? Like, I feel like that's a big difference there. And I think it is interesting that the Neva Altai hit that perfectly for me, because to me, it did feel like she is precious to him. She is seen in a little bit as his possession in some ways, and he is possessive of her and protective, but it never felt in a way that he thought that his pride was on the line, that other people were looking at her, you know, whereas in Worth Any Price, that's entirely what it felt like, largely, that, maybe not entirely, that's me not giving it the nuance that it fully deserves, but it didn't feel as satisfying, because in the moments in here when he is protective from the man that she was engaged to, and he's really worried about her, he is worried about her. He is worried about her as a whole, but he's also very worried that this is mine, I am better than you, this guy she was engaged to, and I'm gonna prove it to you, you know? So, like, that whole element of male pride, I think, is always a factor when it comes into a possessive hero, like it has to be, but it can be done in a way that makes me feel like, oh, he actually adores her and worships her, and no, he doesn't want anybody touching what's his, because he loves and adores and worships her, you know, instead of just as, because he owns her, because she's his. So, I don't know, I do feel like, also, I just overall feel like Worth Any Price is just very weak storytelling. It's very weak storytelling. It's very weak character journeys and development. The plot in here is interesting, but it totally felt like the plot in here was just all over the place. Like, all over the place. It's not even about me disliking the hero. But again, that's a valid reason to not like a romance. Like, we have to feel like this is a man that I want my heroine to be with. This is a man that I can see her falling in love with. This is a man I want her to end up with and have a happily ever after with, you know? And I didn't really feel like that at all until the very end in here, which was just sort of maybe too little too late for me. But I just feel like the plotting in here, the story structure, the way that things were hinted at so early on, even from the very beginning, the prologue, we don't get answers until almost the very end. And not that we need full answers, but I feel like if we had gotten a little bit more, like, strung along a little bit more, we would have been more invested in his journey and his backstory, and we would have understood more of the actions that he does in this. Whereas we don't get that until the end. So any understanding and empathy we may have had for why he's behaving the way he does is not there until the end, and then we're just supposed to be like, oh, okay, yeah, you know? So I just feel like overall this is definitely one of the weakest books that I've read by Lisa Kleypas. One of the weakest books that I've read. Weak in romance, weak in story structure, weak in plotting. The only thing that I would say is not weak in here is just her writing ability, her prose, like, and that's just so disappointing to me. So disappointing to me. It makes me want to cry, but oh well, I finished it. I finished the trilogy. That's another romance series I can check off. It's another one of my Lisa Kleypas books I can check off. And I didn't even tell you a final star rating. I don't know, you guys. Like, I feel like it's because if this were any other author who is not as skilled in their prose, but again, like, the story, I feel like it's between a 2 and a 3. I feel like if I give it a 3, that's me saying there are parts of this that I liked, and if I give it a 2, I don't think I've ever given a Lisa Kleypas book a 2-star before. I don't know what to do. Is it a 2-star or is it a 3-star? It's a 2.5. Is it? Because I haven't even mentioned the heroine. She was such a weak character. She is such a weak heroine. Yeah, it's gotta be a 2-star, man. It's gotta be a 2-star. And that's so disappointing, right? But it is what it is. That's a 2-star read for me. I had so many problems with this one. And even though, like, I talked a lot about the Steam, like, this is one reason I don't like bringing that up, is because people don't take my review for the valid points that it has, because they're like, oh, well, you just thought it was too seamy. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this book had problems, and that was one of them. If you're looking at this as a well-told romance story, it just isn't. I don't feel like it is, in my opinion. So, anyway, these are all my opinions. And that's where I'm going to leave it at. So 2 stars for that one, 4 stars for the Nima Altai, and thank you so much for watching this video. I'm sorry I didn't end on a better note with this book, but I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you so much for being here. If you've made it this far, it is St. Patrick's Day when I'm filming this clip, so leave me a clover, something green, anything green, because it's St. Patrick's Day, and I will see y'all in my next video.